Okay, so I'd like to go over some basic concepts of just some basic concepts of my philosophy. And the first concept is the word is concept. So, what is a concept? Concept, in my view, is um, it's something in your mind. It's an idea in your mind, generally used to represent reality, or at least thought or imagination. So it's an entity in your mind that it's a unit in your mind. Let's call it. So concepts are you can associate them one with another. So that's how you build kind of complex understanding of the world. You associate one concept with another, and you can break them down and whatnot. And some concepts are more useful than others. This is how I see it. So words are, in my view, metaphors. Essentially, a word is a tool for communication. It's some sound or some symbol to represent a concept, and the meaning of the word is the concept it generates in a person when they come across the word. An important point is that when we're communicating concepts, not words. Um, if if you fail to get across the right concept, then you're not really communicating, even if you're using, you know, good words. So language is a stable vocabulary of words. Uh, but the interesting thing about language is that it's not just abstract. It's not just English is a language, but it's not. I have a kind of a broader concept of language than just the typical everyday usage of the word language. So, for me, you can look at each person essentially has their own language, because each person has a slightly different understanding of the quote language that they speak. You know, any person who speaks English, you can compare them, and they'll have slightly different understandings of certain words, and sometimes they'll be able to communicate the right concept to each other, and sometimes they won't. So, you know, I might be, obviously I have different concepts. When I use the word language, I mean something slightly different than what, say, the typical person who speaks English means. So how do we communicate between different languages? Essentially, comes down to how do two people communicate. And essentially, they have to be able to share common words, or at least common concepts. And at least a way to get a certain concept across. So one way to do that is, if I'm speaking to you and I want to communicate with you, then I can learn your language and then speak in that language or communicate in that language, and then you'll be able to understand. Or I can teach you my language, and then I'll be able to speak in my language, and you'll be able to understand again. And the third way of doing it that I have come across is to build a kind of bridge across the two languages, which is essentially a translation. So it's kind of an equivalence of two words, or a metaphor. One word means another word. So an example might be an advantage of a bridge is that if you can establish a bridge, then, you know, each person likes to use their own language. They're more familiar with their own language. So if you can establish a bridge, then I can communicate using certain words, and then when you're listening, you can catch the words that you have a bridge for, and realize that they mean something slightly different to you. So, so a perfect example is the word bridge. Now you know that when I say bridge in this context, I don't mean, you know, a physical construct. I mean this kind of conceptual translation between two different languages. So, in fact, the word bridge, as I use it, is a bridge itself. And so, how do we know what words and what concepts to use? So, like I said, some concepts are more useful than others, and that's in terms of representing reality. And some words, in fact, are more useful than others, I believe. Some word meanings are more useful than others. So that's how you can decide which words you want to include in your language. So I've chosen the word concept, the word word, the word language, and the word bridge as an example in this video. So that's just a basic overview that I kind of have to get out of the way so I can move on to bigger and better things. And so I hope that's interesting, and I hope it helps people to understand later on. So I'll be building these little bridges. I'll be making little videos that represent, my own usage of a word, and I'll try to relate it to other people's usages of words. So, thanks.